Before the Prophet ﷺ received revelation, he had a slave named Zayd ibn Haritha. And basically Zayd's parents wanted to take him back, or at least know if he was even alive. And after the parents came to the Prophet ﷺ, he let Zayd choose between going back to his parents or staying with Muhammad ﷺ. But Zayd actually said that he would prefer being a slave to Muhammad ﷺ rather than being free with his parents. And he described Muhammad ﷺ as a father figure and someone who he could really trust. Now imagine this, the Prophet's character was so good that he made even his own slave feel so loved and so respected that his own slave chose slavery over freedom. And honestly, I feel like this is one of the most overlooked parts of the Iman, but it's a super important part, and that is your manners. That's your character. People don't understand the importance of having good character, even though when you look at the Prophet ﷺ, he was the embodiment of good character. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ said that the heaviest thing on the scale on the Day of Judgment is going to be your good character. So this is something that you definitely don't want to overlook. And Allah also says in the Quran that the Prophet ﷺ was made in the best of character. And that's one of the reasons why he was able to spread Islam so well. And one thing I noticed from looking at people who are very strict on their deen, who have very good Iman, is that your character and your manners are pretty much a reflection of how many good deeds you do. It's pretty much a reflection of your Iman. You'll see people who aren't really practicing, who don't pray a lot. These people usually have the worst manners. They don't really take into account how they're treating others. But you'll see people of knowledge, like scholars and sheikhs, people who have really high Iman and do a lot of good, have the best manners. They treat people really well. And even more than just the fact that it's a reflection of your good deeds, the reason why you should care about it at all is because it's a form of da'wah. In fact, it's one of the biggest forms of da'wah. There are a lot of people in the Prophet ﷺ's lifetime that converted just because of his good character, just because he treated them well. And so it's the same with us. If we show a good image of Islam by our good character, then inshallah, a lot of people will convert because of our actions. Now, if you want to know a lot about good character and good manners, then I recommend you to study and memorize and learn Surah Hujurat, because this surah actually has a lot of stuff on having good manners and how you should speak and how you should interact with one another. But if you want an overview of a lot of the different parts of having good character and a lot of the very important stuff, then inshallah, I'll give you this in this video. Now, the first part, and one of the most important parts, is of course watching your tongue and staying away from vain speech. Allah repeats this a lot in the Quran, but a lot of times we fall into it because we just talk for the purpose of talking, and we talk without actually having a reason for it. And this actually will lead you down sin. I mean, just imagine how many times you've gone into arguments just for the sake of getting into an argument, and then you foster animosity between you and someone else just because you felt like talking, when in reality there was no purpose for you to even talk. And imagine how many times you might have accidentally said something insulting, or you might have hurt someone in a way that you really didn't mean to, and now that sin is on your scale in the Day of Judgment. In general, what I think is that you should try and practice being silent more, and really being aware of your speech. Because a lot of times what comes out of your mouth is not really what you mean and what you really want to say. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said that you should either speak good things or just remain silent. Now, a lot of times, remaining silent is what we need to do. Now, another big problem is joking, and especially joking excessively. Now, here's the thing. Joking is actually sunnah, right? It's sunnah and a good thing to make people laugh, but there are a lot of parameters that you should follow, and make sure you don't do it excessively. First of all, you should definitely avoid joking and mocking the religion, because this is something that could literally take you out of the fold of Islam in certain cases. And you should also avoid lying when you're joking. A lot of people try and lie just to make a joke funnier, but that's something you should avoid. Try and be as truthful as possible, because that's a part of manners. And also when you're joking, try to avoid mocking anybody or hurting anybody. So doing things like scaring them or lying to them or backbiting or anything like that. And the last thing is you shouldn't be excessive when you're joking. A lot of people, their whole personality is just constant jokes and jokes. But this is not what the Prophet ﷺ advised us to do. Because if you knew about the hellfire, if you knew about Jannah, you would not be joking as much, right? You would weep a lot more than you joke. And the next part of having good character is controlling your anger. And the reason why this is so important is because when you're angry is when you make mistakes regarding your speech and your character. Because when everything's going fine, you're not going to start hurting people, you're not going to start insulting people, right? It's only when you're angry and you're emotional that you do these things. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ defined a strong man as someone not just who's strong in muscles or who could wrestle people, but someone who could actually control his anger. Now, the way you achieve this is by kind of having taqwa. And what that means is you basically want to constantly have a consciousness, and you constantly want to be aware of yourself. And when you're constantly aware of yourself, you need to understand when you're being angry or when you're emotional, and really try and refrain from speech during that time. Now, after that is avoiding suspicions of people. This is a problem a lot of people have, is they just generally have bad thoughts about people. One of the best ways to start hating people and start having animosity is just having bad thoughts about people. So really, you should be doing the opposite. You should just go around the world thinking that everybody is going to be good to you. Because in reality, a lot of people are not going to be bad to you. They'll only be bad to you if you are not kind to them, if you're not disrespectful. But as long as you're respectful, as long as you're kind, then they're going to be good to you. So don't go around holding grudges on people and thinking everyone's going to hurt you or be bad to you, because this is not reality at all, right? Go around the world just thinking that everybody is going to be kind to you, everybody's going to be respectful, and you'll see that that's actually going to come true. Now, another part of this is leaving what doesn't concern you in life. And this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Basically, what you see a lot of times is people so consumed in other people's trauma. But you as a Muslim, you have to avoid that, right? Don't be caring about what some person said about another person. As long as it doesn't concern you, just don't worry about it. And when you do this, you'll realize that there's so much less stress in your life and there's so much stuff that you just don't have to worry about because you just left off what doesn't concern you. And the last thing I'll say with this that's super important is having your personal hygiene in check. Now, this might be kind of obvious, but of course, being in check physically is a part of giving dawah, and of course is a part of having good character, because let's be honest, no one wants to be around a person who smells bad or just doesn't take care of himself. Now, I made a whole video on the sunnah habits of being attractive and having good hygiene, so you can check that out if you want. Now, these are a bunch of aspects of having good character, but how do you actually build that good character inside yourself? Well, the first thing and one of the most important things is having good people around you. Because, of course, if you have bad people around you, you're going to have bad character naturally because their character is going to leech onto you. So this might be a difficult thing, especially if you're stuck to a certain friend group. You can't just quit a friend group, especially if there are people at school, right? So what you have to do is instead just try and spend more time in good places. Like try and spend more time in the masjid by going there daily, multiple times, or try and just introduce yourself to new people every single day in hopes of finding better Muslim friends. Now, the next thing is to study and learn sunnahs and hadiths and also study the ways of the Salaf. Now, this might actually surprise you, but this is one of the best ways, at least in my experience. Because the thing is with hadiths, it is very clear and it's very obvious what the Prophet ﷺ is doing. For example, when you look at certain hadiths that talk about certain actions that the Prophet ﷺ did, like for example, how he smiled at people or how he would talk to people, then it gives you a very clear picture of what good character looks like. So in general, if you learn more hadiths, you learn more about the character of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's the best character anyone can have. And also attached to this is just gaining knowledge in general. Because if you think about it, think of the most knowledgeable people in the world, they're the people with the best manners. Like if you look at sheikhs or scholars and you look at the way they speak, for example, interact with people, it's not bad, it's not vulgar, they don't say any bad words or anything like that. So one of the best ways to increase your character is just to learn more. Learn and study hadiths, learn Quran, and just gain knowledge. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Don't forget to stop making dua to Allah. Check out Clean Islamic Shira in the description. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.